Hey everybody, this is Tracy here with another edition of A View from Tracy's Point, and I'm here to recap Welcome to Sweetie Pie Season 4, Episode 12, which was titled Challenged Accepted. So guys, I'm just going to be honest with you that I am so late with this video because Sweetie Pies kind of died out for me around episode 10. What about you all? I know the season is over. I think the season finale was last week. But were you there to the end? Were you excited about it? Like, I haven't even watched the season finale. So after I do this video, I'm going to go and watch it so I can just wrap this up because I don't like leaving things undone. The show opened with Charles and Chloe, and he's letting her know how happy he is to be running the TJ's location on his own, and you know how he's pretty much worked it out and things are running smoothly. And I think he said that they were busy, but then we had the scene with Shira, you know, who's the girl that he hired to be, well, she was already working there, but he promoted her to manager. And so she gets into a debate with the fry cook, a guy named Bruce, not the other Bruce that came from St. Louis with them, but someone that they just hired. And so she's telling the guy that he's cooking too much, and you know, when business is slow, that he needs to, you know, stop cooking because then the food is going to be soggy and not good enough to serve to the customers. So Bruce states that he was advised by Charles to always have 3 orders ready, even on slow days. So Charles, you know, he backpedals his way out of it, you know, although the guy who, you know, he pretty much knew what he was talking about, you know, so when he got there that morning, Charles told him to have those 3 orders on hand. Then it doesn't matter that it's now 1 o'clock, you know, and business has really slowed down. So I think Charles was wrong in this essence, but you know, he wanted to save face and make it look like he knew what he was doing in front of Chloe. So later on in the show, Charles clarifies to Shira that her management position doesn't come with much power, you know, that she can't hire anyone and she can't fire anyone and she can't write anyone up. So basically, she's just a supervisor, like a shift supervisor, if you won't take it that much lower. So he then goes on to Bruce, you know, the new fry cook, and, you know, talking to him about his tardiness. And he's basically saying that the guy didn't call to say he was going to be late. He waited until he was already late, and then he called to say that, you know, I'm running late. But at that point, they already knew he was late. And so Charles lets him know that, you know, he has to write him up. And so the cook, you know, he isn't happy about it. But I think that's what happens when you allow a culture to create where people are not being held accountable for their actions, and then all of a sudden you want to lower the boom and expect people to fall in line immediately and understand that you really mean business. So Miss Robbie is back in Los Angeles, and you know she's there to work on her upcoming performance. And so she's on the phone with her sister Jan, and we find out that the West Florissant location has been hit again. Remember, you know, earlier in the season, someone broke in and robbed the place, and this time the place has caught on fire, and I think the fire started in the roof, and so they had to close down again. And then there was an issue with the fire marshal and the building inspector, and I guess they couldn't come together, or maybe it was the insurance company, but either way, somebody couldn't get into the building to do what they needed to do so that they could, you know, start working on the repairs and getting back open. And so Miss Robbie, you know, she's still talking about the weather, you know, affecting her voice, and you know how dry it is, you know, but she says that she's still excited that Jan and Linda, I think is the other sister's name, you know, that they're going to be in LA to come to her show. So at the Inglewood location, you know, it is super busy, and Danielle is there helping out, and she's pretty much complaining. Well, not really complaining, but, you know, basically letting Chloe know that, you know, she's there to help her, but her new job is actually as a social media and marketing person, and that she's not going to be coming in and mopping floors and, you know, running the register while they got all these doggone people in line. And so Chloe says that, you know, they all have to do things outside of their job title, and she needs for Danielle to stop complaining and get on board with what is taking place. So Danielle says that she doesn't mind helping, but she has a photo shoot to do for Jennifer. So she's going to have to leave Chloe, and Chloe's going to have to figure out, how to get things done on her own. So Tim is in the kitchen and he's unable to slow down because, they are so busy with this soft opening. And I guess they basically haven't promoted that the restaurant is open. It's sort of like word of mouth that they've opened, so that they can kind of get in the groove, figure out how much staff they need, and just work out all the little kinks before they actually open the location. And once again, I'm going to go back to what Miss Robbie said to Tim, the last time they spoke, and that was he was basically creating his own competition. And despite what Charles is saying about that TJ's location, they have not had any business until the soft opening of the Inglewood started. And it seems like everybody is going over to the Inglewood location. So while they were in the kitchen, Chef Clark was, I think she was making some mashed potatoes or something. And so she asked Tim about the Sweet Times location, because remember, that's the one that has like the huge kitchen, and she's going to be the executive chef, and everything is pretty much going to be cooked at that location and then routed out to the other locations. And so Tim, he pretty much shuts her down and tells her to concentrate on whatever it is she was mixing up in that bowl, and that they need to figure out what to do about the Inglewood location, getting staff hired and kind of smoothing this thing out and getting it running like a well-oiled machine. But then in his confessional, we learned that the Sweet Times project is stalled, and I think there was like some permitting issues and something not being up to code. But anyway, there's a whole bunch of stuff that needs to be done at the Sweet Times. And the way Tim was talking, it doesn't look like that Sweet Times is going to be opening anytime soon. So Chef Clark, you may just need to go with the flow and put your ambition and your hopes and dreams on hold for a while. So the people from the ARC organization, and remember that's like the prison reentry program, and Tim was meeting with them either in the last episode or the episode before that. And so they, make good on their commitment to bring in some guys to apply for jobs at the Inglewood location. And so I hate to feel this way, but I'm kind of sick of listening to Tim talk about, his time in prison and how he wants to hire, these ex-cons. And like, I want these people to have a fair chance. They deserve a fair chance. I am a staunch proponent I truly believe that, once you do your time, that you should be given a fair opportunity to show that you learned something and that you rehab. But my issue is with Tim, because he keeps saying the same doggone thing over and over and over and over again. And it's like, dang, Tim, we get it. So when he was sitting at the table talking to the guys, he was telling them, don't think of this as an interview. And so you could tell by their expressions that they were like, okay, but we came here for an interview. But he basically was telling them to relax. Let's just have a conversation man to man. And I like the fact that the guys came dressed, in shirt and ties. And I think a couple of them had on coats, like suit coats. They had their resumes. They were very articulate. They were able to express themselves. And I appreciate organizations like ARC, because they are all across the country. The federal government has put, a lot into it. And I think I may have said this in another recap, that I'm concerned that with Donald Trump in office, he may kind of like override this whole program and set back, the programs greatly, because there are so many that are doing like great and wonderful things in the community. The lines at Inglewood is down the street, like literally. And I think when the Sweetie Pies show first started, like they would be at their West Florissant location, and it would be the same thing. Like people would be down the street and around the block waiting on this food. And I'm thinking, ain't no food that good that would have me standing in line like that. I don't care who's cooking the food, but they're out there trying to get in. And so Tim decides that to help get him and Bruce into the restaurant working and trying to figure out how to, streamline things, that he's going to hire two of the guys from the ARC program, and they would basically be running the deliveries. They would go pick up the supplies from the supply company, and then if anything needed to be taken to the other restaurants, then they would be the drivers that do that, because he was saying that they were leaving like that they were losing a whole lot of productivity time because they were constantly driving from location to location. And do you guys remember the episode when they were going to Orlando to go to was it Island of Adventures, Universal Studios, wherever they went. And Tim was riding around in that Cadillac Escalator. He had all that junk in that car. And I was like, oh, he's living like a homeless person. But now I'm thinking that those were probably supplies for the restaurants and he was transporting, like coming from the supply store, transporting them to the TJ's restaurant or something. But they need to get it together because I just don't understand. I can't even imagine like trying to cook for that many people and just constantly having to cook food to get these people in and out. And like, do most of these people eat takeout because the restaurant ain't big enough for all these people to sit down and eat? Or is that why the line is so long, because they're waiting for tables to free up so that people can sit down and eat? You guys let me know if you've ever eaten at a Sweetie Pies and like what your experience was, and were there long waits, and did you eat there or did you take the food out? So Jan arrives in LA and she joins Miss Robbie and Miss Dolores, who you remember as Holly Pete Robinson's mom. And they're on a shopping trip to a boutique that's owned by a friend. I think she was a friend of Miss Dolores, and then Miss Dolores introduced her to Miss Robbie. And so now her and Miss Robbie are friends. And so the four ladies get to talking about online dating. And I am just cracking up because, like I said, I cannot imagine my mother, who is a 78-year-old widow, talking about she's about to go online and do some dating. Mama, it just is not going to happen. So Miss Dolores says that, she's always looking for a man. I don't know why she always looking for a man, but she says she's always looking for a man. And so the shop owner says that you can always drive over 65. So I guess she's into dating and trying to find her man also. So Miss Robbie, she's talking about she can't see her man because she needs glasses, and she hasn't accepted the fact that she needs glasses. So he could have been standing there all along and she just didn't see him. So Danielle is over at the Live It Up, whatever that new business Tim done opened, and ain't nobody in there but him and Jennifer. And so they're doing the photo shoot. And so Danielle thought that she was just going to be taking pictures and video and posting them on Instagram. But Jennifer seems to think that Danielle is now her personal assistant, because it was like every 5 seconds she was like, Danielle, where is Danielle? Danielle, what are you doing? And Danielle was like, what the hell? This ain't what you hired me for. So one of the models asked Jennifer if her and Tim were going to take pictures together during this photo shoot. And I was like, okay, are y'all trying to be funny or what? And so the conversation goes on to how, the two of them met. And so Jennifer, being all sentimental, she was saying that I guess she met Tim right after her mom died. And she felt that her mom, was looking over her and sent Tim to comfort her and guide her and be her companion, so she wouldn't be alone. And I was like, okay, that was really sweet. Anyway, so Tim shows up to see how things are going and is happy to see that Danielle is stepping up to the plate and doing, what's necessary to assist Jennifer. And so I'm thinking, Danielle, you better speak up and let Tim know that this is not what y'all are paying me to do. And if this is what I'm going to be doing, then I need to see some extra numbers on my paycheck. So Miss Robbie has a date and they agreed to go to a dance studio. But now remember, it was supposed to be a double date, but coincidentally, Miss Dolores mysteriously gets sick, so Miss Robbie has to go on the date on her own. So the guy that she's there to meet, his name is Clive, and I think he said he was from Trinidad, and he seemed like a really nice guy. He was a nice looking guy. They had good conversation and appeared to enjoy the dancing lesson, but Miss Robbie said that she wasn't all that impressed with Clive and that there would not be a second date, so she didn't give her brother a chance. So back at the Inglewood location, Chloe and Tim, they're in the storeroom, and the storeroom is located, I think, on the second floor. So they have to go up this flight of stairs, and it's like a straight flight of stairs from the street up to this room that they're putting all these boxes and things in. And so I was like really surprised that this building didn't have an elevator, but hopefully it'll help her and Tim shed a few pounds because I think they both could use the workout. So Tim, he asks her about the anger management classes and he lets her know that he can see the difference in her. And so Chloe, shares that she's learned, a lot in that class, and she tells him about the whole react and respond thing that she learned and that she's really been using that. And then she also lets Tim know that she's enrolled in classes to get her GED. So that's a good thing for Chloe. And she is doing much better because I was ready for them to fire Chloe, but and just get her off the show so we didn't have to deal with her anymore. So it's good to see her, really relaxed, being respectful and being responsible. So Charles and Bruce, the original Bruce, they're having a conversation about Charles having days off. So Charles wants Bruce to come over to the TJ's restaurant and run things. I think he said on Mondays and Thursdays. But Bruce is upset that he even has to be at the TJ's restaurant. So something's going on at the Inglewood location where they don't have a computer or they don't have internet access, so he has to come over to TJ's to do like the payroll and the ordering and everything. And so he lets Charles know that he can't cover for him because they are working every single day of the week at the Inglewood location, and so he can't, be there and be at Charles's location at the same time. And so, Chloe comes in, and I guess I spoke too soon because she was back being her loud, obnoxious self. And so, I guess, the work for Sweetie Pies, they don't get days off. They don't have a life because Chloe seemed shocked that Charles was trying to get days off because she's like, they are working 7 days a week all day long, and nobody's getting a rest. And that can't be a good thing. And it seems like that has to be violating some kind of labor laws or something. So, on that front, Tim, you are a lousy business owner because you can't be treating your employees like that. And then I'm wondering, like, where are they at with the lawsuit? Because this is another issue that could negatively impact Miss Robbie by Tim opening up all these doggone restaurants. Because if he's violating labor laws and not compensating people the way that they should be, because I'm thinking if you working 7 days a week and all these hours, there should be some overtime or they should be making really good salaries. So there's no reason that, they're struggling to live on their loan because on their own, because remember, Chloe and Charles were living in the same apartment up until recently. So yeah, they really need to resolve all the legal aspects of this business and who's responsible and who's liable. So Charles pulls out his walkie-talkie to communicate with his staff, and Chloe was just done at that point. She was like, seriously? Like, maybe I need a walkie-talkie over here at the Inglewood location where we're actually doing work and we're actually busy and serving customers. So then Miss Robbie meets with Stephanie and the band to rehearse, and she also gets to meet her background singers for the first time. And so due to time restraints, they can only rehearse 2 times before the show, which is kind of concerning to me because I think Miss Robbie needed to rehearse a little bit more. Once they get started, immediately Miss Robbie says she's having mic trouble and it sounds like the sound is off and everything else. And then Miss Robbie says that the way the band is playing the tune isn't the way that they agreed upon. And then Stephanie, she's still being like really polite and professional, letting Miss Robbie, because at first she was like trying to say that, the band was playing the song right. But then she kind of like stepped back, when she said that Miss Robbie was, basically saying that they weren't playing it right. So we're going to see, well, it's only one episode left, so I have to see what happened on that episode. But I'm just thinking, Stephanie, she knows how to handle, she's definitely a people person and she knows how to make everybody feel important and as if their ideas matter. Then we had one little short scene in St. Louis, and it was with Cousin Michelle and one of the cooks named D'Angelo. And so he was being very arrogant and disrespectful and talking back to her. And, Cousin Michelle is kind of rough around the edges and she'll get with you. But, she is the manager, she is in charge, and the D'Angelo guy was just way out of line. And so those two went at it so hard that she eventually ended up firing him. And I think that little scene gave us like the opposite effect of hiring ex-convicts, because D'Angelo doesn't have like that decorum to be working for somebody and being respectful and following protocol. And you know that nobody else is going to hire him in their establishment, acting and talking to them the way that he was talking to cousin Michelle. So, and I think that guys like him make it harder for other guys to get jobs, because after a business owner has one or two experiences with a D'Angelo, then they're not willing to hire like the guys that came in for the interviews in California. So cousin Michelle doesn't play, and I don't know why he was trying to come at her like that, but it's a done deal. She told him to take his ass on and don't come back. So that was it for me for this episode of Sweetie Pies. And like I asked earlier, like, did you guys make it through the end of the season? Did you start to get bored, or were you in there until the end? So I'm going to go ahead and watch the season finale and get that recap out to you guys as soon as possible. And I hope everyone has a great weekend. Please comment, rate the video, share the video with your friends, and subscribe to my channel, because I do recap other shows like Being Mary Jane, The Quad, This Is Us, and I think Underground is getting ready to come back out next week. And then we have Greenleaf, which will be coming back the week after next. And then there's two shows, one called Rebel and one Line of Fire, that has Sanaa Lathan. So a lot of good shows coming out on TV, and I'm kind of hoping that we kind of shift away from the ratchet reality TV shows, like the Love and Hip Hop and Married to Medicine, which that ended and really got on my nerves, but that's a story for another day. So anyway, you guys take care, because I'm rambling, and I will check with you next time. Bye bye.